Irregular eating patterns causes food noise. It is not a mental health issue. It is not something that we just have. It is a conditioned response to you having irregular food patterns. Welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, the podcast where we debunk the eat less, move more, shrink more mentality and focus on what really matters, which includes your relationship with your body, food, self-worth, and the behaviors that align with all of those. I'm your host, Christina Hathaway, licensed therapist with specialized training in food and body obsession, certified personal trainer and nutrition coach. At the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, we believe what you say in your mind, you see in the mirror. So let's have a conversation about that. Before we get into today's episode, I want to make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Also, if you don't want to miss any content that's being dropped, make sure you hit that notification bell as well. I also want to know who are the people you want to hear from on this show and what topics would you like me to continue to cover. Thank you so much for your continued support. Now, let's get into the episode. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. I am thrilled that you took this time out for yourself to learn something about your physical and mental health. So pat yourself on the back. Let's give it up. Give it up for yourself. Raise the roof. Whoop, whoop. You can tell I'm 40, almost 43. Shit. Today, we're back to the basics, day 3, and we're talking about your relationship with food. I know, what a concept. However, like I've said in the past episodes, this is not just about food and how to eat less. We're taking it to another level, and we are going to go over the basics that we need to have, like the foundational skills that we need to have in an effort to have a good relationship with food. And I truly believe that when we can create this foundation, things like calorie deficits and maintenance and, you know, all of the things that we do in regards to body composition changes, just is easier for you. It's very much easier for you. However, so many people out there experience food noise, whether you realize it or not. Your food habits are very real. And, you know, again, if you're not conscious about like what it is that you're doing, you're just eating and like determining certain foods are good for you, certain foods are bad for you. You are deciding that like you have specific rules about food, but it's never about the food. Like your rules and these like rigid guidelines they reflect really like your beliefs, right? Your mindset, your patterns, everything we talked about on last episode. And the way you eat is often a mirror to how you treat yourself. Whoo, deep, right? Because these rules that we keep around food, they very much are a test to our worth. So we're going to talk about the rules around food that may be sabotaging your health journey, how things like food timing, food quality, food choices can dysregulate your body and your mind, because that is very, very true, and most people don't understand that. We're going to talk about the distorted beliefs that create guilt around eating. And then, of course, we're going to build a sustainable, flexible, and respectful relationship with food by utilizing some of the tools that I have. Now, this may be a refresher for some of you, but that's okay, because when I say shit over again, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So let's dive into it. So food rules. Food rules have been thrown on us since the day I was born. I'll tell you that right now. Food rules are things that we live by when it comes to food. And food rules could be started from experiencing the way that our parents ate, parents eating a certain way, but then making comments about our food. Culturally, food rules are a thing I've always talked about, being Hispanic, being Italian. Food is like family, it's life. And then also situations can create food rules. So for example, when you walk into your mother's house and you walk straight to the pantry because she always has the good cookies, that's a food rule, right? It's more of a conditioned response, but you get what I'm saying. Or like at mom's house, I have to clean my plate because she'll feel bad. So you have situational, cultural, and personal food rules, right? And I'll say there's societal food rules as well, which could technically be cultural, but you know what I'm talking about. Like society tells us what foods are good, what foods are bad, what type of eating is good, what type of eating is bad. And right now in this day and age, there's so many fucking rules. If I had the time, I would try and sit and write down every rule that someone tells you to do on social media. And we'd probably be here for days because it's like, don't eat fruit, don't eat fruit, but only eat, low glycemic fruits and all the things. But for us, I'm going to talk about the ones that I see the most in my practice. So again, diet culture, family upbringing, emotional coping patterns. That's another thing I didn't talk about. They create rules like I don't eat after a certain time. I cut certain foods from my diet. I have to work off certain foods in order to enjoy them. I only eat clean, right? I do well during the week, but allow myself to splurge on the weekends. I can't, I have to skip meals in an effort to hit my goals. Well, I think that's, certain foods are good, certain foods are bad, right? And for some people, especially when they're not really aware that these types of rules are not serving them, they're actually dysregulating their system, both physically and mentally, like I said in the beginning. They see this as discipline. This is disordered. Having rules around food is disordered. Now, I interviewed Livia Sarah and she said, I have guidelines around food because I do need to feed myself enough. And there is a difference, and it's always about the respect level. Are we doing this out of punishment or are we doing this out of respect? And what I mean by respect is physical and mental respect. So if I'm someone who, just coming back to these rules, says I don't eat after 7 because that keeps me from gaining weight and I can't be fat. Is that mentally respectful? No. And physically it's not respectful either, because say you have a Christmas party, you're just not going to eat, right? Or you're running late, you're not going to eat. Get it? Whereas if I'm someone who says I will eat cake whenever it's in front of me. Physically, I'm going to eat a portion that feels good to my body, and mentally I'm going to be mindful and enjoy it. That's respectful, right? Now, if I eat all the cake, that's a different story. Physically, you're not going to feel well. So you guys get it, right? So, but for a lot of people, they think that it's discipline, but not only is it not respectful, it's very fear-based, it's very shame-based, it's a sense of punishment, right? It's a punishment system. And if a rule feels like it boxes you in, like it keeps you from being able to live, and some of you are like, I can live that way. Great. Congratulations. I'm glad that you cannot eat carbs for the rest of your life. Most of us can't do that, nor do we want to. However, for the rest of you, if you feel like the rule boxes you in, then it's a rule. It's a rigid rule, and it's one that messes you up, right? Because if you eat outside of that box, that guilt kicks in, that shame kicks in, and then your patterns of all or nothing or purging that food, because purging is more than what bulimia tells us. It is also going to the gym and trying to burn off those calories. So all or nothing could be like, well, now that I've messed up, I'm just going to eat all of the things. Or we can do the opposite and we can punish our bodies into burning off those foods. So instead of looking at food as what it is, it's fuel, it's a way to connect. I mean, a lot of the things we do allows us to connect over food. It can be a way of celebration. Celebrations don't require food. Most of them have something. I just went to, even my friend had like his hard hat launch of one of the restaurants he's opening, and there was little charcuterie boards, right? Because people want to eat, something to do, right? But if it turns from connection and fuel and empowerment to stress, that is a problem, right? So instead of building trust because you've known how to eat, when to eat, that you're hungry since you were born, and somewhere along the way you disconnected, right? Instead of trusting your cues, trusting yourself, trusting your wants and needs, you disconnected from that because of these rules, and that causes you to disconnect from your hunger, from your satisfaction, from your hunger, but more importantly, from yourself. And anytime that we're working from a place of disconnection from ourselves, that's a trauma. I know that sounds crazy, but that's a trauma to you. And most likely is a pattern like we talked about last week. So see how these shows are building. That is a pattern that quote unquote keeps you safe, right? Now, speaking of patterns that are on autopilot and keep us safe or they're predictable, the binging still can be something that's predictable. The emotional eating is something that's predictable. The restriction could be something predictable, right? The shame that we feel can be something that's predictable. So I want you to ask yourself, what rules am I living by when it comes to food? Do these rules help me feel free and nourished and strong? Do they make me feel like I'm respecting my body mentally and physically? Or are they keeping me stuck in fear, guilt, maybe secrecy, punishment, or inconsistency? So what is your answer for that? I luckily very much have a wonderful relationship with food. I absolutely love my relationship with food, but it took me a long time to get here. I was definitely the rigid, can only eat certain foods, and I could very much continually kill myself around food and restrict and restrict and restrict. It was until I realized this is not fun. Could I keep doing it? Yeah, I could have. I don't know for how long. I'm guessing if I wouldn't have intervened when I did, eventually something would have happened that would tell me like maybe, my hair would fall out or I'd get too thin, whatever that looks like, right? But for me, it was just like, this isn't fun. Could I keep doing it? Sure. But I had the wherewithal to be like, this is stupid. So I want you to check yourself before you wreck yourself because it's bad for your health. Don't you love when I get to throw that in there? I do. Okay. So food rules, what are they? Do they serve you or do they not? Because if you're trying to create change when it comes to diet and exercise, these rules will 1000% hijack that process from you. And I want you to hear that. Doesn't matter how great your program is and how ready you are with your meal prep and all your stuff. If you have these rigid rules that keep you boxed in, or if your plan has rigid rules, you will fail because they're unsustainable. You cannot sustain them. They're not designed for life. So keep that in mind. So pillars of our foundation are clearing out our food rules, which we'll talk about at the end. Next is how we interact with food. Okay. So we tend to focus so much on like what to eat, but we don't actually focus on like how to eat and why that matters. Obviously, what we eat is important, and not just from a physical health standpoint, but really from a mental and emotional health standpoint. If your eating patterns are inconsistent, so you skip breakfast, you graze all day, you binge late at night because you're freaking hungry because you didn't eat breakfast, not only does your body not feel safe because your blood sugar, I want you to think of like blood sugar regulation as kind of like a mood regulator. When you're hangry, right? But also when you're not getting in carbohydrates and you don't get just enough fuel in general, you get what my client Kelly calls cog fog. My graduated client Kelly calls cog fog. I think it's hilarious. You're not all there, right? And your body doesn't feel safe because it's, blood sugar is up and down. It's not getting what it needs. It doesn't know when to expect nourishment. The brain is kind of running on empty, and that stress causes a stress response in your nervous system. So physiologically, irregular eating can, again, spike and crash blood sugar. It can disrupt your hormones. Your food helps you to regulate hormones. Your food helps with thyroid production. It helps with, again, your brain uses glucose for energy, right? Irregular eating can also cause a spike in cravings. That is something people have no idea about, that the actual thing that they're doing. So I should say that again. They have a physical goal of losing weight because they, outside of this diet, have such strong cravings and they give in to those cravings. So what do? They cut their calories even more, or they have an irregular eating pattern even more. And that actually just makes those cravings worse. So what happens is they give in to the cravings and they have failed another diet again. That becomes their pattern. Again, low energy, brain fog, mood swings is another reason why physiologically we need to eat more. Mentally, food noise happens. This idea of when I should eat, how I should eat, what should I eat? Was that good? Was that bad? When is my next meal? What am I going to eat at my next meal? I've already messed up today, so I might as well eat all of the things. Oh my God, I can't believe I ate all of the things. I need to restrict in the morning. Did I restrict enough? Oh my God, there's cookies. Don't have the cookies. If you have the cookies, you're not going to be able to control yourself. La, 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 la. Irregular eating patterns causes food noise. It is not a mental health issue. It is not something that we just have. It is a conditioned response to you having irregular food patterns. So if you're someone who this year wants to lose weight, or maybe you're on a GLP-1 because food noise has been all the GLP-1 talk because it lowers that part of your brain. It lowers that like craving center of your brain. However, you can do this naturally simply by eating better. I know. It's hard to believe, but I've talked about these studies multiple times. I will say it again. There's multiple studies. The World War II study specifically, when we starved our combat soldiers and then we observed their behaviors, they began to obsess about food. They began to hoard food. They began to cut out food in magazines. When they got food, they'd eat very, very large portions and not feel satisfied. Tell me that doesn't feel like you on a daily basis. You're not eating during the day. You're white knuckling your way through. You're constantly thinking about food until you get in front of a food that you absolutely need to have, or you're exhausted and you don't have the capacity to try to do something different from your default. So you then grab that food and eat a ton of that food because you haven't been eating all day. So your satiety is out the door. It's nowhere to be found. And then you're like, oh my God, see, I can't even eat this food. Every time I get around this food, I eat all of it. And you just think it's like something wrong in you when it's really solvable by having a fucking meal when you wake up. And then having a meal, I'm going to talk about that. Sorry. Whew, she's getting hot. Anyway, food noise gets louder as eating gets more chaotic. Get back to my notes. But when your meals, of course, are consistent, when they're balanced, meaning we're not cutting anything out of them. I say this all the time. We need all three macronutrients. They are designed to help us physically in different ways. Protein helps us build. Fats help us with hormone production and satiety. Carbs help us with energy. They are designed that way. Anything that comes from the earth is designed to help us. Plus, the foods from the earth have vitamins and minerals in them, micronutrients, right? When you can eat more balanced, not only are you going to feel better, you're going to lower the noise in your head. You're going to have more control. You're going to feel more grounded and clear. And again, if I'm someone who wants to lose weight this year, don't you think it would be important for me to clear this shit out first before I try to restrict even more? Because what did I say earlier? That's literally just like, it's the definition of insanity. You're doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. The same thing being irregular food patterns that cause a behavior like cravings and binging and all of that cause weight gain. So then you what? Cut the calories again. So we want to clear this out. Clear this out, another layer of the foundation. So what you eat matters, when and how you eat matters, and eating consistently matters as well. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about are distorted food beliefs that kind of also derail our progress. So there are distortions. So beyond rules, we have these beliefs too around food that we should, all or nothing thinking patterns, right? So the rigid rules are I can't eat. So it's an actual behavior. The distortions are usually what are the catalysts for those behaviors. These beliefs are oftentimes formed in childhood, like I talked about. This could be years of your dieting, because a lot of my clients, their parents put them on diets at very, very young age, which is terrible. That's a terrible thing to do from a brain and a body that's developing. Your job as a parent is to guide a child, not to micromanage a child, so that that child can understand their own hunger and fullness cues, their emotions, their wants, their needs. But if you have unhealed trauma, you're just projecting that onto your child. Therefore, you're micromanaging everything. That is going to be another conversation we have all about how your worth was developed. I'm hitting the microphone again. So coming back, the beliefs that are formed in childhood through our parents, our culture, society, again, conditioning, but also through our own years of dieting, shape how we think, how we feel, and what we see in our bodies. Meaning they shape what we see in the mirror. Because what? Say it with me. What we see in our mind, we see in the mirror. So these distortions are a part of our distorted perception of ourselves. So the ones I wrote down is I have to earn my food. So I have to earn my food. This belief creates a toxic relationship between food and movement. Okay, so it's the distorted thought. Where did I learn this? Why do I have to earn my food? Well, maybe you grew up in an environment where there was a heavy emphasis on appearance. And if you were going to have that cookie, you better get outside and get on your bike. Or you heard your parents talking about that, and God forbid we're fat. God forbid we're fat. We're going to lose love from other people if we're fat. And then, of course, the rigid rule is I'll only have the cookie if I can go to the gym the next day. It's a sense of purging your food. Again, another distortion. One bad food ruins everything. Classic all or nothing. It leads to giving up completely instead of adjusting. This distortion is rooted in I am bad if and when I make mistakes, rather than seeing the mistake as simply a place of learning, a place of growth. We have that fixed mindset. Now I've messed everything up. I might as well punish myself by continuing to do it, or I'm a failure. Why even try? The next one is similar to all or nothing, but it's really more of a vision of perfection. I have to eat perfectly. I have to track perfectly. If I don't track perfectly, it doesn't count. I'm not going to see it. If I don't see it, it didn't happen. This is like a facade. It is a lack of accountability in yourself. And rather than holding yourself accountable, you just think, I can't lose weight. But you're not honest with yourself. You're afraid of witnessing your quote unquote failure. So it's either perfect or you don't face it. You don't acknowledge it. And for a lot of my clients, this is a real thing. And it comes back to having these parental figures who were very critical if you were not whatever perfect was determined in your family, where any sort of, again, mistake or less than what they wanted was criticized, or maybe love was withheld from you. So we see this a lot where clients will put their coach in that parent role and they'll just track perfectly. When you guys track perfectly, I know something is up, because the average person doesn't track perfectly. I don't track perfectly. And when I have that client who tracks perfectly, I know this is going to be fun for me. So hold yourself accountable. Be real with yourself. Food and hunger, if we're actually listening to our bodies, it's never just this flat line. This next one is incredibly important. Hunger means that something's wrong, or fullness means I overate. I have so many clients who are like, but I'm hungry. I don't want to be hungry. And I'm like, why not? You're human. I mean, hunger is literally like you've got to pee. You're hungry. You got to poop. It's like, hey, I have a bodily function that needs some tending to. That's what it is. But for a lot of women, there's a distortion around feeling hungry. You want to feel hungry. The people who don't feel hungry, that's because their body is metabolically fucked. Okay? Sorry to tell you no, I'm not sorry. This is how we talk here. If you're not feeling hungry, people are like, well, I just don't feel hungry. That's a problem, baby girl. That is a problem. And it's a distorted problem if you think that it's a good thing. I always say, like, if you couldn't poop, or if you're not listening to the fact that you have to pee, you're going to piss on yourself. And guess what? If you don't listen to your hunger cues, you're not going to pee on yourself, but you're going to have a negative physiological response from that. Metabolic adaptation being one of them. If we do it long enough, obviously, it can kill us, right? On top of that, when we try to avoid our hunger, eventually what's going to happen, our obsession around food is going to go up. We're going to have the food noise. Our cravings will go up, and our cravings will be for whatever we can get fast energy from. So boom, then we are in the pantry. We're snacking. We're doing all the things. So you hear me, guys? You see the distorted thought and the behavior, the rigid rule, or the behavior that we need to change. The same is true with fullness. People feel like fullness is bad. Now, there is a spectrum of fullness, but feeling pleasantly full is a wonderful thing. It says, I feel satisfied. I enjoyed that food. And that is not the same of overeating. And this is interesting for people who have a history of binging, because people who truly binge eat do it to avoid their experience of themselves. It puts them back in their body, but they have to eat like a lot in an effort to feel in themselves, like in their bodies, or they'll do it because experiencing themselves is so painful that they'd rather feel the pain of like their bellies being full. And that is really traumatic, just that experience in itself. And so when we're working with those individuals on like feeling normal fullness, they almost feel like they're playing with fire, because they're like, I don't like this. It reminds me of that person. But we've got to feel full, because physiologically you have green light, which is your ghrelin hormone that says, I'm hungry, and red light, which is your leptin that says, I'm full, by design. Okay, last one. When I eat less and restrict my food, I am morally better than other people. I personally have struggled with this one. I can do something you can't, and I do it real well, and I get praise from it, and you feel bad, and blah, blah, blah. I feel superior because of the things I don't put in my mouth. What I eat makes me better than you, also known as orthorexia. This superiority complex around how clean you eat, the restrictive nature of what you eat, like how you can do it and you can be good. Again, ding, that's me. It's distorted, because just like I said, that can lead to you killing yourself if you do it long enough, because what that does is it makes the foods you can't eat smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until you're eating almonds, green tea, and cream of wheat. That was an actual client of mine who went to treatment. So that's a big one, especially for people in the industry. So these are all distortions. They are not truths. They are patterns. They keep you stuck again in the fear, the shame. They make you second guess every food decision. And again, if I'm someone who wants to heal my relationship with food, I need to be recognizing, do these rules serve me? Is this thought pattern healthy and respectful, right? Or is this something that if I continue will never allow for change to happen in my life? Because even the person who eats perfectly, they're not respecting themselves because they're mentally not well. They're still in the box, okay? So does this rule actually serve me, or is it something I picked up that no longer fits the life I want to live or the goals I have for myself? Now, I think it's important for you guys, again, this is your another layer of foundation. So we have, what are my rules, right? We have, how am I eating? What is my relationship with types of foods, when I'm eating foods, like how much I'm eating of each food, and then what are my thoughts, distorted food beliefs that execute behaviors, which execute outcomes. Very important in regards to creating a foundation with your relationship with food. Your behaviors and your thoughts. Think about a relationship with another person. I can tell you I love you, but if I don't make you feel like I love you, does that work? That's what I want you to be thinking about with your relationship with food. Like, I can do the things, but if I'm not thinking in this positive way around food, it's not going to work. We have to make both work at the same time. That's why what I do is both, therapeutic practice and exercise and nutrition science and behavioral change, because it only works that way. It's one integrated system, you guys. It's not pieced. You're not, part of you is over here and other parts over. No, that's not how it works. Okay. Creating a better relationship with food. I've already touched on some of these because I like to go off my notes. However, here's your refresher for clients. This is one of my favorite things to teach because it debunks everything. Maybe not everything, but in my brain, everything. This is the Sustainable Eating Quadrant. This is the thing this new year, you are going to do for me. Grab a piece of paper. You're going to create a line down the center and a line across the middle. 4 boxes. Boom, 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 boom. In box number 1, we call this pleasurable and nourishing. I know I just talked about this. Don't kill me. I had to burp, sorry. I know I just talked about this. Pleasurable and nourishing. Strawberries, blueberries, avocado. But by this time, my regular listeners are like, we got it. We got your fucking list, girl. Maybe, let me see. Did I add anything to this list? Turkey sausage. I do like turkey sausage. That's probably a little processed though, but we'll count it in there. I bought these sausage links. They're divine. Avocado, almonds. I like peanuts. I like grapes. I like oranges, apples. I like Brussels sprouts. I like them just roasted with salt and pepper. So what are the foods that have micronutrients or macronutrients, so vitamins and minerals, or carbs, fats, and proteins that you enjoy just as is? Maybe we roast them. Maybe we put a little salt and pepper on them. We're not doctoring them too much, just as is. Yesterday, I've been eating my breakfast much earlier, and right about an hour and a half before lunch, I kind of got that drop, and I was like, okay, lunch is coming up. I'm just going to have some blueberries. I just ate the blueberries. They were delicious. So quadrant 1 is pleasurable and nourishing. Quadrant 2 is pleasurable but not nourishing. Now, keep in mind, these are your love foods, not your like foods. If you like a Twinkie, but you don't love a Twinkie, don't add it to that list. My love foods are apparently this gelato from LA. Oh, it's so good. Ice cream, I would say freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. I don't like the crispies. Well, I like Tate's crispy chocolate chip cookies, but if I'm eating a cookie by itself, it needs to be fresh baked. I like chocolate brownies. I like peanut butter chocolate brownie fudge. So if anyone has a recipe for that they'd like to share with me, thank you. I like flavored cheesecakes. And it doesn't have to be sweet. I like trail mix with candy in it. I love trail mix, I should say. I love hot and spicy peanuts. They're so processed. I love them. So quadrant 2, pleasurable foods that are not nourishing. Quadrant 3, nourishing foods that are not pleasurable. These are, if you just have that food by itself, it's gross. You don't like it. It's not fun for you. For me, that's eggs, egg whites, ground beef, ground turkey, even honestly, shredded chicken. Ugh, I gotta mix that shit with something. This is where we're gonna incorporate things like sauces or making them into meals, right? So today for dinner, I'm having roasted vegetables with shredded chicken, some quinoa, and some hummus. Lovely meal, very balanced, and it allows me to have some of the, like the chicken, of course, and the quinoa. I probably wouldn't eat that by itself, but with it mixed together, it tastes divine. It's so good. I get the Ithaca hummus. It's a lemon deal. It's like 50 calories for a serving too, which hummus is pretty calorie dense. So that is number 3. Number 4 is not pleasurable and not nourishing. These are your like foods. Things you're like, whatever. Don't eat them. If you're not getting pleasure or nourishment out of that food, why are you eating it? Right? Or if it's like, well, there's celery at this party. I hate celery. I'm not going to eat celery. Now, it doesn't have any calories in it, but like chips, I dislike. Like Lay's, I like baked Lay's. I don't like regular Lay's because they just like dissolve in your mouth. It's so gross. And I'll be somewhere and I'll be like, why am I eating this chip? I don't like it. Or I like this. I don't love this. I don't need it. So what did you not hear me say? Never in this quadrant am I like, don't eat this food. Well, you know what I mean? Because it's bad. Don't eat this food because it's bad. Every individual's quadrant will be different. And what we want to do is eat as much as we want out of quadrant 1. Pleasurable and nourishing, have at it. I mean, you get within reason, mindfully, eat attunedly to that amount. Quadrant 2, coming back to attunement, we want to eat a portion of that meal that it feels good physically. So like Mark and I shared this cappuccino cheesecake, and basically I had half of it. That was satisfying to me, but also I slowed down. I was like making love. I was like French kissing the spoon. It was divine. I have not stopped thinking about it since then. It's a different type of food noise. It's like a food infatuation. Portion that is physically and mentally good for you. So you're not walking away feeling like, oh, my stomach's so upset, or you're not like, oh, I was out of control with that. Quadrant 3, like I already talked about, we're going to doctor those foods up, mix them with things, make them taste better. Quadrant 4, we're not having. We're going to have less of that. Easy, right? Easy. 4th foundation. We've cleaned out the rigid rules. We've cleaned out the distorted thinking. We started creating a pattern around how we eat, the timing of, and the types of foods that we're eating. Now we add that sustainable eating quadrant on top. Booyah, bitches. Meal types. So again, I've already touched on this. Macros, protein, carbs, and fats. We want them, vitamins and minerals, and we're aiming for 80 to 90% of our food to come from whole foods. Why? This comes back to food noise. I don't think I said this. These types of foods stay in the system longer. Processed foods, even healthy processed foods, they go up and then they come down, and your down part of that's your blood sugar. So your blood sugar comes up and then it drops. It makes you feel hungrier sooner. And you're like, well, I just ate. Well, because what you ate was processed. Like that's like drinking your meal and expecting to be full. Not counting like an actual like sustainable shake. What I mean by that is like a shake with like oats in it and yogurt and berries and spinach, and that'll keep you full. But you know what I mean? It's not going to keep you full, but you're like, but I have a protein coffee every morning. I don't get why I have so much food. No, because you're not eating a meal. Whole foods, foods that we bite on them. Think about this. It takes energy to chew. And then we digest, right? We swallow. Our little stomach like takes that food and it's like do, and it like moves it around. I don't know exactly how it works. And then it gets to, it's in our stomach and it's doing its thing, and it takes a while for whole foods to break down. So why is this important? I'm fuller longer. That is why whole foods are important. They're not diet foods. They're important for your body. So eating more whole foods is going to reduce your cravings. It's going to make you fuller longer. It's going to reduce food noise, and you're going to get benefits from those foods. Okay. Meal timing, like I said, breaking your fast within 60 minutes of waking. I cannot tell you, and I'm not going to lie, I've been the girl who's worked out fasted. When I eat within 60 minutes of waking, maybe I would say I stretch it to 90. Let's be flexible. 60 to 90 minutes. I'm a nicer human to myself. I didn't do that today because I wanted to wash my hair this morning, and I didn't eat until I washed my hair, because then I could like have my little microfiber towel on my head while I'm making the breakfast. And I was not nice. Everything was bothering me. Making my breakfast was bothering me. So that by itself should be reason to like eat early, and then roughly eating every 3 to 4 hours. Don't make it a rule every 3 to 4 hours. If you're someone who's really active and you need more calories and you're just not eating enough and your body's like, hey, I'm hungry in 2 hours, eat. That will, obviously, we need to figure out what portion sizes of meals look like for you. But 3 to 4 hours is like the usual for someone with a functional metabolism. Now, again, if you're not feeling that, we've got some metabolic adaptation going on. When we do this, we stabilize blood sugar, we support energy level, and again, it reduces the obsession around food. It prevents extreme hunger, which also prevents overeating later on. And the last thing I put in here is using tracking as a tool, not a weapon or a self-worth predictor, I guess. Tracking food is incredibly helpful. It's incredibly helpful if you have no awareness around what to eat or how to eat. It is not something that should be used to punish yourself. It's not something that should be used as, again, a self-worth guide. It solely is a scale and portions and you learning how to eat. Think of it as a flashlight, okay? It is a flashlight. It's broad, not a microscope, okay? It's not about being perfect. It's about creating an understanding around food. And that, if you add that layer on, now we're rocking and rolling. Am I getting enough protein? Am I skipping meals and not realizing it? For my clients, I like to have them put their food in before the day starts, if they know relatively what they're going to eat. If they have a meal that they don't know what they're going to eat, we usually try to plan around that. And they can keep track of that. Like, why didn't I eat lunch? Because I work with a lot of busy ladies, and then, they're in the pantry later on in the day, or they're screaming at their spouse and they're like, what happened? Oh shit, I didn't eat lunch. See, it's again, use it as a learning tool. The other thing you can do with tracking your food too is, does this food make me feel energized, or does it make me feel sluggish? So if we're going back to that quadrant, right? Maybe we put it in I shouldn't really eat that. It doesn't make me feel good. Tracking helps us understand the portions, the types of foods, the size of meals that we prefer, the timing of our food. It's a wonderful skill, and it needs to be done right. There's a lot of programs out there that actually support tracking as like a distortion, and this is not that program. So track with curiosity and learn how your food impacts you. And when you're tracking too, one thing I like to say is like, actually look at the portion, so that eventually down the line, you don't have to track anymore. Like, you've done it so much that you're like, oh yeah, that's roughly 4 ounces, right? Not going to be perfect. All right. So building a new relationship with food requires a foundation. This foundation that I have explained to you today will help with whatever nutritional goals you have, whether that is eventually going into a calorie deficit, if you want to build, if you simply just want to have better health markers, you want to eat healthier. All of the stuff I'm talking about, we need to clean it out first. It's as if I've been saying the word foundation, but think of it as, before I even lay the concrete, I've got to level out the dirt. This is leveling out that goddamn dirt. Sorry, God. This is leveling out the dirt, making it smooth, right? Getting all the rocks, the debris out of the way before I can pour the concrete. It's so important. People rarely do it, and they find themselves playing the same record over and over and over again. So if in your mind food feels chaotic, it feels unpredictable, you're fearful of it, or you feel out of control of it, we need to start cleaning this up. We need to clean out our dirt, because shifting how we eat will not just, again, help you with whatever goals that you have. It will rewire your experience from within. You're reconnecting to yourself, both from what we talked about last week. So I have awareness around what I'm thinking, but also I'm checking into how I'm feeling. I'm coming back to those hunger and fullness cues that have been there since I was a kid, but that I've pushed off in whatever rigid thoughts or rigid rules that I have around food. Okay. This helps you build confidence. This helps you feel energized. It helps you make better decisions. It obviously gives you more energy. You're just a better person overall. Oh, and like I said, you're emotional. You're not having mood swings like I was this morning. So if you found this episode helpful, please share it with others. I cannot tell you how important this is, and it's often missed. I mean, tell me how many times you've heard this being the first step to healing your relationship with food. Usually people are like, just go, when you have a craving, just, go and set a timer for 5 minutes and see if it's still there. That's fine. But the problem isn't the craving. It's the fact that you've been fucking starving yourself all day because you think that that's what you need to do in order to lose weight and blah, blah, blah. So share it. I love you guys. Thank you, of course, for being here. I hope that you found this episode helpful. I know that it's unique in the fact that most people who are telling you to recreate your relationship with food are not talking about these layers and how important they are, because when you let go of the rules, right? You let go of the guilt. When you start eating consistently and mindfully, you start building meals that are nourishing for yourself. You start to manage the distortions and reframe them, your whole life will change. That's why I'm not telling you to, set a timer when you have a craving and see if you can push through that craving. It has nothing to do with the craving. It's everything that happened before the craving. The thinking, the feeling, the avoiding, the shaming, all of that contributes to the craving. So we need to change that first. We want to reduce the food noise. We want to feel more in control. And more importantly, we want to feel connected, as I said. So my question for you is, what is one food rule that you've been holding on to that you are ready to let go of? And what is one new habit that you can try this week to build trust with yourself? So thank you. Again, if you do love this information, please share it with people because it is so unique. It's unique, a unique experience to kind of bring, again, the mind, the body, the identity together as one integrated system. That is what we do at the Mindset It Matters. So if you are interested in working with the program where everything is dealt with at once, check out the show notes below to schedule a call with moi. Other than that, if you haven't already, make sure that you turn on all those buttons that makes this podcast popular, because 2026 is our year, babies. It is our year, and I'm very excited about that. So subscribe, follow, download, review. 5 stars only. And other than that, I'm going to send you on your way, reminding you that what you say in your mind, you see in the mirror. Bye-bye.